Hello, Euro 199 students. Welcome to our third and last interview with Marvin Mitterwallner from the Visitor Center of a fascinating and pretty ambitious urban development project here in Vienna, namely the so-called Seestadt, Lake City, directly translated, Seestadt Aspern. Marvin Mitterwallner kindly agreed to meet with us here on Zoom today, and I'm curious to hear what he will tell us about the Seestadt. Marvin, could you briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your job and about why you're working for the Seestadt in the visitor centers?
Yeah, hello and welcome. As mentioned, my name is Marvin. I'm working for the project, for the development agency, for the project development agency, since I was a young student. Actually, I'm part of the project for at least 10 years. And then I got more and more involved, and now I'm the head of the Visitors Management Center. Actually, this is a challenge for us because in non-COVID times, we have about 10,000 guests, and we are hosting tours, workshops, and providing platforms for the research and information exchange to other development areas, but also for a wider audience. I'm not. My main responsibility is visitors management, but it's not my only responsibility. But I have a questionnaire here, and based on this questionnaire, I have a presentation for you, and hopefully after the presentation you get an overview. What is the project all about? What we achieved so far? What is considerable as smart. So if you're prepared for a lot of information in a quite short time period, then I can start with my presentation.
All right, thank you for the introductions, Marvin. My very first question is, can you explain to our Illinois students in a few sentences what the Seestadt Aspern is?
Well, I'm going to share my presentation. Well, Aspen Seestadt is a quite ambitious city development project in a quite rural district in Vienna, where we try to merge the urban qualities of a quite livable place as our city with the rural and green qualities of the district. It is possible because the area was available. It was the first airfield of Vienna, which actually lost its function right after the Second World War. And now the city is booming, and we face the challenge of a lot of pressure of the housing market and so on. So therefore, in the city development plan 2005, the whole corridor in the 22nd district was seen as a development corridor for city development. And although the place was owned by two big and important institutions, they don't have the capacity to provide a team for a 25 to 30-year on-site development. And that's why they decided to found a company, hand them over certain tasks, and voila, here we are as a development agency, mainly responsible for this project and sell the land here to our partners. So that's me. This is our team. We are a quite small unit, including management board. We are up to 25 people, and we are responsible to sell the land for all cooperative planning issues, but also for location marketing and other information platforms, such as this stream, for example. Where are we? Well, the Danube River divides Vienna in two big parts. We are in the smaller part in so-called Transdanubia, And we are on the corridor to the next capital, Bratislava, and we are developing a quite huge part, about 240 hectares, here in the outskirts of Vienna. I guess your next question is referring to important figures. Well, the total investment of the project over a time frame of 25 years is about 5 billion euros. Actually, we are transforming former brownfield, an unused airfield, to a city or a new city part. And of course, the whole area gained way more worth. As I mentioned, the whole area is about 240 hectares wide. It is as big as the historical inner city district, where most of our famous buildings are located. And the whole development period is set for at least 20 years, which is quite ambitious. Well, it will more or less take 25 years. So what can you expect, or what is the project all about? It is a quite urban place in a suburban surrounding. We expect up to 25,000 inhabitants in the end of the project, which is set by 2035. It includes up to 12,000 residential units. And the main challenge actually is to establish this area not only as a residential area, but also as a job center. So in the end, the whole project should be more or less an additional district center in this 22nd district here in the east of Vienna. Yeah, city development is not only about buildings. We want to merge the inner city qualities with the rural and green qualities. So in the end, 50% of the project is actually built, and 50% is open space, green space, sport pitches, and so on. We should be reserved for the inhabitant needs, more or less.
And what are the most important goals of the Seestadt project? I mean, you already mentioned some, but what can you say about that?
Well, actually, the main goal is to achieve in the end a new part of Vienna, which has more or less the same qualities that is to be found in the whole city of Vienna. There is a master plan. The master plan was decided in a competition, and Mr. Tovert, a Swedish master planner, won with his ideas for this certain site. The whole master plan is resting on 5 major planning pillars. And yeah, I want to simplify these planning pillars and want to give you at least one sentence which is referring to these planning pillars. So the first planning pillar is referring to buildings, actually. So what we want to avoid is a place that is monofunctionally used. We want to mix up a lot of different functions, mainly visible in an active ground floor zone and in a vertical mix of uses in every building plot. This is a functional map. Actually, the color represents the amount of residential use or housing use on every building plot. So the brighter the color gets, the higher is the amount of residential use. The darker the color gets, the higher is the amount of jobs, office space, and non-residential uses. So the challenge is an urban city part in a quite suburban surrounding with a lot of different functions recombined on one side. The second planning pillar is referring to everything or the not built surrounding, actually. So as I mentioned, 50% is not built. It includes our lake park. It is an artificial lake, so actually we designed it and we built it. There are a lot of small quarter parks, a lot of traffic-free community squares. There is a pedestrian zone in different quarters and so on. So again, combining the urban functions with the rural functions. We are quite well connected right from the beginning. So we have a metro connection. We have actually 2 metro line stations. The northern one is the way more important one because a small regional train station is going to emerge there, including not only metro line, but federal train line, future trams, and so on. There is going to be a motorway connecting our project area to the most driven road in Vienna. Because we are quite well connected right from the beginning, we have the idea of so-called soft or reduced mobility strategy here on site. So the idea is by locating different functions within small quarters to create a city of short distances. So we set the so-called urban distance is about 250 meters, about 300 steps. Within all important facilities should be reachable for you as a pedestrian or as a cyclist. So of course, important is a matter of perspective. Maybe in the morning you need a bakery or I don't know, next kindergarten, school building or whatsoever. And maybe in the evening more a supermarket or another use. And to overcome these short distances, we kind of provide some on-site solutions, including shared cars, bike rental system, shopping aids. Every household gets as a present a shopping trolley, a shopping cart, in order to overcome the mental barrier of carrying bags for these short distances in this project area. And the last planning pillar is not really a planning pillar, it's more like a quality saving pillar. There is a quite strict instrument called environmental impact assessment, which names us a lot of measures and projects we needed to implement in order to minimize the impact of the project on the project area. It's about animals that are protected here on site, for example. It's about construction site logistics, construction site safety, and other measures we needed to implement. So maybe a famous example, or at least 2 famous examples, by digging out this artificial groundwater lake, we found a huge hamster family, the wildlife hamster. The hamster is a protected animal within the city border of Vienna, so we were not allowed to drive them away or take some cruel actions against the hamster family. No, we needed to set a certain area and move the whole hamster family to this place. Hopefully they are lucky over there, but hopefully we will not find them in the northern part, because whenever we found only 1 hamster, we need to stop the construction site, and of course construction site delays goes hand in hand with someone losing money. The developer, the construction company, the moving in phase is delayed. So although it is just a small creature or a small animal, it is super important to deal with protected animals here on site.
I never thought about the relationship between hamsters and urban development. So thank you very much for this insight.
Yeah, me neither, to be honest. But yeah, there are several protected animals because we are quite near to the Danube National Park, where there are a lot of different animals under protection, and from time to time they somehow are to be found not only in the national park but in the whole district area.
And there are also smart city projects going on close to you in relationship with Bratislava. I just read that up about biodiversity and ensuring biodiversity in that region. Yes. So you are neighbors.
It is, yeah. It is a super important topic to deal with environmental issues in order to develop new and super urban city parts. Yeah. Actually, this was not a big thing in the 22nd district in the 70s and 80s, because the topic environmental protection, environmental crisis, and so on was not really a planning topic back then. We more like focused on infrastructure planning, like motorways and stuff like that. So yeah, it is getting more and more important. And although it is a quite strict framework, we are quite lucky to have it, because this is a way to prove that we have a more or less environmental friendly development. Although, of course, you need to admit, whenever you build something on a green place like this, there is a certain impact given, of course. Yeah. So we want to minimize it. We want to save the neighborhood, single family housing areas, and so on, and want to minimize the impact in the end on the project area.
And this already sounds like one of the reasons why Seestadt Aspern is usually ranked among smart city projects, right? I mean, when the students and I, when we are reading about smart city initiatives within the borders of the city of Vienna, Seestadt Aspern always comes up. So my next question, and then it's already obvious from all your remarks that the challenges of a new urban development project that still takes into consideration the challenges of minimizing effects, consequences on nature and biodiversity and so on, requires creative solutions, right? And requires smart people. When you meet hamsters, so what do you do with those?
Of course, yeah.
And then there are the costs. There is the economical factors, right? And costs. So what is smart about the Seestadt?
Actually, what is smart? Yeah, there is not a clear definition, worldwide definition, what is considerable as smart. There was a quite funny sentence which goes back to one of my professors on my university. We asked him, what is considerable as smart? And he said, actually, smart is a matter of perspective. It's about the heritage of the city or of the country itself, what is considerable as smart. I was informed that most of the students already are aware of the smart city framework of Vienna, which is not really technology driven compared to Asian smart city frameworks, for example. But there are three key pillars that were defined, at least in our city, in terms of smartness. Well, actually, there is this main goal, climate goals in order to reduce the CO2 emissions. And this is actually the umbrella where most of the so-called smart solutions are referring to. Well, actually, there are examples what is considerable as smart. I think saving resources, finding new construction ways, mobility hub, implementing a mobility hub, finding a solution for the last parcel delivery mile, and so on. I think this is to be found in every smart city framework. So saving resources is quite clear in my opinion. Being innovative is a bit hard to catch, in my opinion. Is it more like the technical innovation that has a huge impact on planning topics or on social issues? Or is it more like the social innovation? It is a discussion, and I think it's on the heritage of the city and the country. Well, most of the actions and solutions found in these two pillars are a major part of raising the quality of life for all inhabitants in our city. And I think maybe it is a quite naive approach of what is smart, but in my opinion, a quite lovely approach. As you may know, Vienna is one of the most livable cities worldwide, so quality of life is very important in our place. And it is not only about finding technical solutions, it is about finding new ways of bringing people together, uh, community building processes, neighborhood can also be considered as smart. So maybe I underline two quite famous projects in our city or in our city development area. Actually, from the technical innovation perspective, we have the autonomous driving bus here. So we are a test bed. We are considered as a smart urban laboratory for a lot of different solutions and different research activities in order to find a new baseline for future city development areas. So we are a test bed, for example, for the autonomous driving bus. In the first quarter, the autonomous bus is operating. Maybe it is going to operate in future on our ring road and is used as an additional public transport possibility in the end. Yeah. Well, actually, of course, it is a technical innovation, but but there is, in my opinion, not really a social innovation going hand in hand with this innovation, because in the end, the public transport operator will save one job, a bus driver. So it has a certain impact, at least on this, on the bus drivers, right? So it is not, it is a bit hard to catch. Is it more like the technical perspective? Is it more like the social perspective? Of course, we are a test bed for different solutions, like the fully automated bus, but also like for finding for a research program which is interested to find a solution for subsidized housing developers for more or less affordable house technique installations like PV systems, heat exchange pumps, and stuff like that. I want to underline, or I want to focus on our campus of religions. Actually, we achieved a project, or we found a project that brings all different religious groups in our city together. So the idea is, yeah, having a campus of religions, including a school, actually a small university campus. And this is a possibility to get people in touch that, I don't know, are not super likely to get in touch. And it is maybe about inclusion on the working place. So offer and provide a quite safe environment for maybe handicapped people or blind people and stuff like that. So in the end, our idea is to be a place where a lot of things can be somehow tested in order to find basic knowledge for future so-called smart developments. From time to time, they're quite ordinary, the solutions. From time to time, they are technology driven. But in my opinion, it's more like the social innovation that has a huge impact on our community here on site. And there are quite lovely projects such as the Campus of Religions, for example.
And this is what is very often referred to as urban lab idea, right? At Seestadt Aspern.
Yeah.
Serves as an urban lab for future developments. So while you're in this testing phase, I mean, the whole project is still pretty new, and obviously everything that is created newly is tested and monitored, and in Seestadt Aspern's case, very well documented and evaluated. So looking back on what happened so far in the first phases, where are the areas that need more updates, more revisions and new ideas? So you talked now a little bit about some best practices already and examples for things that work very well. So what were moments of maybe unpleasant surprises?
Well, we are not talking about problems or surprises. We are facing challenges, right?
All right, agreed.
I would say, for example, it is a challenge if you're not finding the right solution for a certain place that was, for example, seen in the first master plan draft as a university campus. Yeah? So there was the idea that, for example, your university, the business and economic university, should move to our side, 2012, 2013. Well, your university decided to move to the Prater. Well, whenever I can choose to
Everybody's
move,
actually, this is where I'm sitting right now. So
yeah, so
the university decided to be
the
here.
inner city green lung next to the entertainment park. Yeah, so if I can choose a location, of course, I will move to the Prater, right? My university, the technical university, wanted to stay in the inner city district. So we were not successful attracting a university for a quite famous place next to the lake park and the swimming lake. So therefore, we needed to reconsider our ideas. And what we did is we translated the mix of different use that is set for the whole master plan to this specific place, and changed it from a university campus to another mixed use quarter with a pedestrian zone, with office space and stuff like that. So that's why, for example, the inhabitant figures changed from the beginning from 20,000 to 25,000 now, because we have an additional residential quarter and not a university campus here on site. So whenever there is, whenever we are in need to find a different solution, there is a close exchange between us as a development agency, the city planning departments, but also our company mothers, which are super important institutions on the real estate development market here in Vienna. And and in the end, of course, we need to adjust the master plan. Yeah, so this was one of the quite famous examples, the university campus, for example. Yeah, there are quite a lot of different examples, but this is on a bigger scale, a super important decision, in my opinion. You need to be open for new ideas if you were not able to attract a solution that was planned in the master plan. And then it's on us, on the development agency, to be innovative, for example, be smart, and find a solution that fits into our standards and into our project.
Thank you for sharing this example. May I ask one more question about maybe a perceived challenge? I mean, I think many people agree on the positive sides of Seestadt Aspern, right? I mean, we know it's very child friendly. We know there are fantastic recreational areas. There are playgrounds. The traffic is reduced significantly. The amount of cars per inhabitant is lower than the Viennese average, and so on and so forth. These are all fantastic things. Of course, we're also interested in the challenges, and what I usually hear when people talk about Seestadt Aspern who are living there, they say that of course it's new, so it still feels a bit new. The trees are smaller than everyone wants them to be.
They are not spending shadow so far, yeah.
Exactly. And there are never enough of them. And everyone is talking about green spaces. Everyone would have hoped for more green spaces. And I mean, it's not only Seestadt Aspern, right? We have the, of course, in the inner city, we always have the problem, and the topic of trees in the city center that accompanies us throughout this whole Vienna module. With whomever I talk in every interview, trees come up, so I have to raise them now again. And I want to ask you, why is it so difficult for everyone to ensure green spaces and enough trees? Everyone loves them, right? Especially in a new area where there is enough space. So why is it so hard? Is it so expensive, or what's the reason?
Yeah, in the end, it's super expensive. Yeah, the maintenance of green spaces compared to places where there's a lot of concrete are enormous. So, of course, the investment costs by, I don't know, constructing a road, they're a given. Yeah, but the maintenance costs over a super long time frame of decades or centuries, yeah, are quite small, actually. So what we try to do is, because we are not only developing and selling the land, we are actually producing part of the infrastructure of streets and stuff like that on our on, is based on our business plan. Let's say it this way around. So what we do, we're constructing roads, for example, and then we hand it over to the public departments for maintenance. So in order to lower the costs for the city departments, there needs to be a quite high amount of places where there is a lot of concrete. And you need to be aware of the challenge uh, that we want to develop this whole area in a certain density. With density, there comes a lot of positive aspects: short distances, traffic reduced, vertical mix of uses, stuff like that. So, of course, it would be possible to develop this whole area as a single family house area for, I don't know, in the end, 6,000 people with a lot of green, but infrastructure costs, because you need to, of course, connect every small building to the electricity, water, and stuff like that, would be way more higher. Maintenance costs for all the green spaces would be way more higher. And in the end, most of infrastructural solutions and or most of the infrastructure is referring to key figures, to inhabitant figures. So it is not really likely to get a school, a motorway, a metro connection in a single family house area where there is a low density and not other things going to happen. It is way more likely to get all this infrastructure if you develop a dense urban place. And density and stuff like that, of course, it only works, yeah, if you use the space more or less. So
Right.
yeah, there is and in addition to that, there is always the question, why not at least most of the public spaces in this urban surrounding are green? Yeah. Well, different places have different functions. In a pedestrian zone, it is not really famous to have, I don't know, a sports pitch, soccer pitch or something like that, yeah, with a lot of green space. It has a certain function. It is a pedestrian zone. It is a retail corridor with an active ground floor zone. And of course, we want to have trees there. We want to have, I don't know, fountains there in order to cool down the place. But most of these small green spaces are used by doggy walkers, yeah, or dogs, and for their needs. Yeah. So I don't know if these small green spaces in a quiet urban surrounding like a pedestrian zone are actually used. Yeah. So of course it is a discussion. The inhabitants want more green space. They want more trees. But right from a planning perspective, a certain space has a certain function and doesn't necessarily always need to be green. But of course, it is a matter of perspective. And if you compare our place, which is super dense compared to the neighborhood, uh, then of course there is a lot of concrete. But in the neighborhoods, there are single family housing areas. Um, and they have all their green yard and lawn and trees and swimming pools and stuff like that. So this is a totally different lifestyle. This is more like a suburban car-based lifestyle where all small distances need to be overcome by your own car and stuff like that. So this is a totally different lifestyle. But it is referring to the challenge of a booming city, and Vienna is booming for mid-European or Central European terms, actually. And in my opinion, or this at least what I've learned on university, it makes sense to develop the last remaining public-owned brownfields in a certain density to face the challenge of the population growth. And
I understand. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for these insights. Actually, already my very last question. Do you commute to Seestadt Aspern to work there, or do you live there as well?
I do. Actually, uh, I need to commute quite a time. Actually, I'm living in Trans-Danubia on the same Danube River, but in the 21st district. After my studies, I moved quite near to the Danube River, and I need to commute with public transport, 45 minutes every day. Why I am not living at the Seestadt? That was a question that comes every time, actually.
I thought it was my moment of surprise at the
Yeah,
end of the
no,
interview.
no. Well,
You spoil
actually,
it.
if my personal lifestyle is going to change, and I grew up in a quite suburban surrounding, so I'm well aware of the qualities of being quite near to the city center or
Sure.
to an urban surrounding, but have the pros of not having a social control every time you are meeting with your friends and stuff like that, which is actually not given here in the suburbs. Yeah. So if my personal family lifestyle is going to change, we are expecting kids or something like that, I think that a place like Seestadt can be a surrounding for me and my family where we are quite happy. All the schools are new. There is public transport connection to the inner city district, which brings you in 20 to 30 minutes to the inner city core. You have a swimming possibility right in front of your porch. It is super traffic reduced, so extremely safe for children and their needs. But right now, I'm not in this certain phase of my life. Yeah, so maybe it is going to follow. And I want to add, who is keen to work to live at your work in your workplace actually. Yeah, so actually if there is a problem, you are the first person who receives a phone call, so we need you there or there, and so on. But I think this is a quite good sign that the people that are responsible for this place are living here. And three three guys of our team of the development agency are actually living here. Yeah, and I
Mhm.
think it is
So
a
you have
sign.
both perspectives, the neutral observer's perspective in your person, and then your
Yeah,
colleagues actually live there.
so it totally depends, but I think there are still quite a lot of people that they think that although it is an urban city part, it is suburbs, it is not in the inner city core, it is in Trans-Danubia. This is not a place for my
Mhm.
needs.
I understand.
And from on the other perspective, there are people from more urban or more rural places here in the 22nd district. They say, no, it is too dense. We are not in need of the infrastructure which is going to happen there because we don't have kids anymore. We are
Mhm.
used to do our daily shopping on the green place in a small shopping center, and so on. So I think and I hope actually that we are developing a place for a lot of different lifestyles, but not for all lifestyles, of course.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, for all your insights, and we wish you all the best for the next phases of the Seestadt Aspern development steps.
Well, thank you very much. Whenever all the COVID issues and the COVID crisis are hopefully over in the next month or years, maybe there is a chance to visit Vienna, a quite livable place in Europe.
I would
And
love to take the Illinois students to your visitor
and
center in Seestadt Aspern.
maybe if you have enough time left, you take the metro line and visit our place to compare the old historical inner city districts with the new emerging districts here on the outskirts.
Sounds very good. Thank you. We will take you up on your offer. Hopefully soon. Bye
Well,
bye.
all the best. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was able to give you an overview. I think we are quite well documented place. So there are different platforms, not only our website, there is an ISU reading channel, there are videos referring to this place. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get insights from my perspective or got insights from my perspective. And yeah, thank you for the interview.